Back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Friday, March 7th. Third hour on Friday can only mean one thing on this show, and it's what just happened. We got an all-star panel, including a new person. First, Liz Miele is back, my buddy, New York City-based comic, seen her on Comedy Central, Fox, Hulu, NPR's Wait Don't Tell Me, over 6 million views on YouTube with her 5 albums. And Liz, you got a new one coming out April 2nd, Murder Sheets. Congrats.
Murder Sheets is out.
What?
You can go watch. You can go watch it. You
I
got
thought it was
old
April
bio
2nd. I saw it April said April 2nd.
last April. It's out. Go watch
Oh
it.
my God. All right. Well, folks, go check it out now. Also back, V Spehar is back, who in between interviewing every Democratic senator,
Yeah.
unbelievable American journalist, podcast host of Under the Desk, now has 3.5 million followers on TikTok, hundreds of thousands on Instagram, Substack, and more, and a kingmaker, as we learned
Oh,
earlier.
yes.
So good to
Yes.
see you, V.
Yeah. Good to see you. I'm really excited. One of my little princes is here today.
And speaking of Little Prince, making his debut on the Dean Obeidallah Show, Alex Pearlman, known on social media as that red-haired guy who yells about the news. Very funny stuff. I was watching it. Pearlmania 500 on TikTok. He's got 2.9 million followers. His podcast, Too Many Tabs. His work's been featured on CNN and Washington Post. And I can't believe you're all on the show. You're all too impressive. This is really a remarkable group. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here. Long time. My dad's a long time SiriusXM subscriber, so thank you guys for gobbling up that inheritance that should be in my pocket. But it's great to be here, and I'm really excited.
Tell your dad he can call SiriusXM and haggle down prices. I'm not even kidding. You can get it down to $5. I'm not joking. Everyone listening, if you're ever thinking about canceling your SiriusXM because you can't afford it, call, make whatever best offer you can, and they'll say, sure, we'll take it. A little trick, because I'm not kidding. They want subscriber numbers up.
Yeah.
That's the inside. There you go, everyone. That's what we're here. Thanks for joining me. And that's the end of the show. All right. So Donald Trump gave a something on Tuesday. I don't know what it was. It was a Trump rally. It wasn't even billed as the State of the Union. It really was a Trump rally. And I know, V, you were covering it. You had Democratic senators on. You can comment on the speech if you want. It's absolute garbage. But just what was your take when you talked to the senators, and what was your reaction overall?
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome the transgender mice to the community. It's so good to have you. I was unaware that we had got a new species transitioned over, and I'm quite proud of that. So welcome to those. I honestly, what I liked the most, and I think a lot of people liked, was when Rep. Al Green stood up and was protesting and booing, and I think doing what we should do. And folks got really excited. And I thought, oh my gosh, the Democrats maybe have a plan. They're going to interrupt and shake him because Donald Trump can't take booing. And it was kind of working in the beginning. He was kind of getting like thrown off his game. And then, like all things, it just petered out.
We're going to talk more about Al Green, but yeah, and Donald Trump, I mean, in the speech, the only two things that there was the anti-transgender garbage, and then on Social Security, it was truly concerning. He's continuing the lies that there's millions of dead people getting Social Security checks, and that's not true at all. But that's a way to lay the groundwork for him to throw millions off and saying it's fraud, and then people have to go with their family to fight to get back on Social Security. And good luck when they've laid off a chunk of people at Social Security. There's no one there. So, Liz Miele, what about you, my friend? Did you watch any of the speech, the reaction, the clips? I mean, to watch that whole speech, you have to be paid to do it. It's just not.
I was about to say, I was like, no one's paying me.
Right.
My followers get cat pictures. There's no way. I did clips because I want to be informed or whatever. I mean, the Al Green stuff makes me sad, because if instead of the little panels, everybody did something and just made us at least somewhat feel like you guys were going to take action. I think they can't throw everybody out. Like, so I just felt like I just see it from what I'm looking at, which is the disappointment I have for the Democrats and the lack of unity. And, if the people that didn't show up, I respect it, but what are they doing in that time that they didn't show up? I'm not saying this is all their fault, but I do feel listless and lost because he's telling lies, and you just have one old guy in a cane being like, it's a lie, and everybody is, you know what I mean? It just feels a little hopeless.
But let me ask you, Liz, do you feel listless and lost in general anyway, or is it now with Donald Trump?
I mean, I cried on the election day and wrote my dad the craziest email, because I had to go to Raleigh the next day. And if you're going to be in the South, that's where you want to be. But I was still like, I don't want to go to the South. And I'm like writing my dad this, like, all is lost. to my dad's credit, he's a big history nerd and wrote me back like the best email about like, we've done this before and we'll do it again. But I talked to him on the phone last week and he's like, I might be wrong. I don't know. Things suck.
Well, Alex Pearlman made a really good video to give a pep talk to people. Alex, can you I don't want, you don't have to recreate it, but you can, feel free, but share a little bit what your pep talk was. I watched it twice so far and it made me feel better.
So a big part of it is just to remember that Donald Trump is 78 years old and that time always wins. Time always wins. And that's a big thing we're dealing with right now. The biggest thing I noticed when watching that speech is only one guy has swag like Trump in the Republican Party. All the rest of these dudes are nerds, man. Have you seen, but can I curse, by the way? Is this serious?
Of course, it's SiriusXM. You have
Oh,
to.
fuck yeah, I love it. All right. That was a bullshit speech written by an old dementia patient who was just rambling on his shit because he knows that no one will fucking stop him in the Republican Party. When you watch, yeah, sure, the Dems sat there the entire time, but every Republican stood. Every Republican stood for known lies that they know are lies. They stood for possibly invading Panama. They stood for possibly invading Canada. They stood for possibly invading Greenland. And you know, the biggest thing I hope the Democrats took away, the ones that were actually showed up in that room and just sat there with their little paddles, I hope they noticed that the same guys that they're going to lunch to, the same guys who are secretly in the back being like, oh, actually, I really don't like everything Trump's doing. You know, it's my party and I'm getting threats and all these different things. When the cameras were on, when it was time to stand up or sit down, they stood up. They stood up, not at the same time as Al Green. They stood up every time that he said some shit about transgender mice during the 5 sections of that speech where he targeted trans people and was screaming about them, blaming trans people for the entire world. And that's the reason why I wanted to tell, because I have a lot of younger fans. I know my analytics. I know that I have people that are 18 to 40 who watch me. It's a big chunk of my audience. And a lot of them have been sitting around after living through 25 years of this bullshit, whether or not they're like me, where I was 18 when 9/11 happened, or if they're a little bit older, where 2008 was when they came to be and they understood the financial crisis, or maybe they went to Zoom high school because of COVID, all these different things. They see a laundry list of bullshit happening over and over and over again, wave after wave of things getting worse over time. And the biggest thing I wanted to point out to them is, hey, stick around, because you're about to live in a world where time's going to catch up to this man. And we just have to wait on some of this. I'm not saying James Carville wait. I'm saying we should still stand up. I'm saying James Carville's a demon who the only way he's still alive is he sucks the energy out of the Democratic Party and he spits it back into Mary Matlin's mouth. The rest of these guys, though, in the general, when it comes to, sorry if I'm going too far. If it's,
this is good. He's never come back on, so it's good. That's it.
No, was he been on?
He's not recently. He was a few years ago.
We kind of
disagree.
Video.
There was a time I used to think he was a fighter, but now there's kind of let's lay possum. Like what? Yeah, the civil rights movement would happen if
I cut a YouTube video about it last week, because his whole thing was just sit back and then eventually they'll miss us. There's no missing us. No. Right now, listen, choosing not to do anything is an action. And that's a thing that many members of the Democratic leadership, not the entire party. And that's a big thing that needs to be pointed out, which is a real hard disconnect for a lot of people right now. The leadership that we saw from the Democratic Party on Capitol Hill between Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer is non-existent. The biggest thing they pointed out is they went in front of the Atlantic. They went on Politico magazine. They went to all these different organizations to say, hey, what happened up there with Al Green, with the paddles, with the shirts, with the jackets? We didn't want them to do any of that. Which means, okay, cool. You just proved to me you're not leading your party. The only thing right now, the only reason Hakeem Jeffries is currently still the minority leader is because nobody's called a vote yet. And that there's nobody who's clear is going to step in his place, because a lot of people are waiting for him to get smacked down by Trump and then somebody else can step in as the victor. Because all Hakeem Jeffries has been doing is stepping forward and saying, we can't do anything right now. And this is what's driving people crazy online, which is why I have to give them the bare amount of hope. The minimum amount of hope is that someday you will live in a world where Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump and some of these other ancient septuagenarian men on blood thinners will be a thing of the past, a thing that we read about in history books, if we still have history books.
If we do, and if JD Vance doesn't then rise up from the ashes and become the younger version of all of them. But V, what about there was an article yesterday in Axios based on source reporting, but I think it's true, that Hakeem Jeffries called in people like Jasmine Crockett and other Democrats and said to them, can you tone it down? We didn't like what you did at the speech. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, are you literally out of your mind?
He's out of the room. I mean, he's got a book tour right now, and it would be great if everybody could just calm down so he could focus on his book tour and focus on, his cool guy status. Maybe he'll make time to be on Gavin Newsom's new horrible podcast. It's like they're all just making bad decisions. And I think if there's anybody that you don't want to stop right now, it's Jasmine Crockett, it's AOC, it's Lisa Blunt Rochester, Chris Murphy. Look, Tina Smith, who is not typically a swinger, she's been out here, okay? She's been out here like doing stuff.
Whoever's running her Twitter deserves a raise.
They're rocking it out there. So I think that there is a lot of enthusiasm and great connection happening, and we can't be tamping down on that. And we certainly can't be trying to find the middle with these people. They're insane.
There's no common ground. So, Liz, I mean, after Congressman Green did what he did, and it's an iconic photo now of this 77-year-old man holding his cane up against Donald Trump, the fascist. It would be like someone standing up to Hitler, in the Reichstag before the fire, and saying like, that's the bad guy. 10 House Democrats voted with MAGA to censure Al Green. And some of them I know, and I'm like, what is the upside to you doing this? Why would you do this? And I saw one of them on TV, Amy Barr afterwards, the congressman saying, I voted to censure him because we're talking about, this issue as opposed to the real ones. Like, no, you just made a whole new issue for the media to talk about, Democrat infighting, which is bullshit to me. So is it just that there's certain people in Congress who are just the wrong people at the wrong time? And at a different time, they would have been perfect, but they're just the wrong ones now.
I mean, I think that's across the board. Like, my dad was a fiscal Republican and he will never go back. Like, my dad is like that, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that party is gone. The old school Republicans are gone. This is a shadow of what the Republican Party was. Not that I ever was on that side, but I do have like some empathy for my dad, where he was just like, I didn't have money and I wanted to keep my money, but I don't want everyone to die. I don't want people to not have rights. This is crazy. So I think the mourning that my dad did for the Republican Party, I think we're feeling that as the Democrats, which is like, I look at Bernie and AOC and now Crockett and I feel inspired, or, Al Green, and I feel inspired, but like, they're the ones being muted. They're the ones that are being told to sit quietly in the corner because of decorum, but everything's out the door. Nothing is what it once was. He's talking about literal lies to take away people's money and rights and cancer research and all of the above, that no rules apply. So, why are we pretending that what Al Green did was wrong when that's I would hope why they got into politics, which is to stand up for people and people's rights.
We need more Al Greens. And I'm chatting with Liz Miele, V Spehar, and Alex Pearlman. So, Alex, let's shift gears and talk about tariffs. They're on again. They're off again. They're on again. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're back now. And they're not back now. I forgot. Oh, they're coming back April 2nd or April 3rd. Everyone's 401k or IRA is disappearing. So I won't be able to retire until I'm 112 as of now because of what happened the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. But I thought Trump was going to bring prices down. I thought this would be the golden age. Instead, it's the gilded age where the rich are going to get richer during an economic downturn. What is your take on these tariffs and what is going on here?
I mean, listen, it feels a lot like the U.S. economy is being run the same way as the TikTok ban right now. It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. Who knows where I'm going to be making money from? But the big thing, I've been calling him Tariff Trump because I think that it's important that we put the tariffs first. Mm-hmm. Because the way Donald Trump markets everything is it's Trump Tower, it's Trump steaks, it's Trump water. Fuck the Trump part. Let's talk about the tariff part because that's what he really wants his name to be. He talks about how tariff is his favorite word. It's this beautiful word. Oh my God, it's a beautiful word, tariff. I just heard this word. It means free money. It means they give us money. And the thing is a lot of people don't understand, I think, at the end of the day, tariffs. And there was some messaging at the very end of the campaign where Walter Matheson, Jolly Ginger, and a bunch of others really started to nail into some people about what tariffs mean. And let's face it, who are Trump's biggest supporters on the internet? They're drop shippers, man, who are going to be hit the hardest by tariffs. These people who are selling the t-shirts, selling the Trump merch, selling all this different stuff, a lot of MLMs, all these different things are going to be hit hardest by these tariffs. And then it's also going to blow up the rest of the economy. So I think that there are a bunch of different levels of this that people don't understand because they hear tariffs for Canadian and Mexican goods. Oh, avocado and maple syrup. I think it's just starting. You can tell that the messaging broke through because within 24 hours, they roll back auto. Because the first example to explain it to everybody was auto parts, how a piston crosses the border 4 times. And that immediately people went, wait, how much is a car? And the shot of Fox News being at Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up. They actually went to, there was David's Dodge, which is where my dad bought his truck. But right now I'm having a really big moment. Like one of the representatives who voted to censure Al Green, that's my representative, Chrissy Houlihan. I gave her an earful. I mean, at least I gave her voicemail earful.
They listen to every one of those.
Yeah, I know they listen to everyone. Well, one thing I always try to do is I always try to put an apology at either the beginning or the end for the staffer. And I say, listen, this isn't about you. Okay. Chrissy's leaning on our staff because Al Green did decide to not lean on his cane. So I really, try to lean in on some of those things and just be like, hey, I understand. And I hope you see this way that maybe they'll take a little bit of that sweetness, but this message is nice. And then the end of it's me yelling, you fucking traitor. All right. But the tariff side of things, the economic, which I know the Democrats are the most comfortable leaning on.
Yeah.
There is also on that side of it, there's a apocalyptic economic side that the Democrats are not leaning to in at all. Egg prices are up 4%. People don't understand percentages. They don't understand division. They don't understand multiplication these ways. So you really have to go nail it through. I mean, I had in my video, I have it right here behind me, this stupid sign that was all over Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And this sign that said Trump low prices, Kamala high prices. This is one of the things that won him Pennsylvania. Well, prices go up. You don't have to sit here and talk to me about egg prices are going up 250% when only 4% of production's down and blah, blah, blah. Don't say that. Trump take egg. Trump take egg.
Trump take egg.
That's it. I mean, we got to get down to, we have to for some people, because the big thing that Democrats are losing, especially in this messaging that they had during that speech, is they are giving up completely on the moron voter. And listen, I'm not saying the person they just don't have the time or the ability or anything else to be able to have this whole discernment to go all the way down to why the supply chain is global and the interconnectedness. They didn't work in logistics like I did for 6 months. They didn't go do all these different things. They might know a trucker, but they don't understand the difference between ISO freight versus the Panama Canal shipping lanes versus all this different stuff. Trump take egg.
Trump take egg. I like that. Look, it's 20. People are going to see 25%. And just to remind people, something I talked about on the show, in this first time when he did a 20% tariff on laundry machines, washing machines, within 2 months, all washing machines in America were up 18.5% because they couldn't absorb the tariff, and domestic makers just raised their prices to right below the tariff. So everyone had to pay more. And that's it. And it's another revenue source to justify a tax for the wealthy. So V, I mean, what's your take on the tariffs? What do you hear from people too? I mean, you talk to the senators. Are they messaging well on the tariff yet?
I think they're getting there, but I think, like Alex said, Trump take egg. Like, I'll be like, eggs are $12 if you can get them. My store won't even buy them because they're like, we know you assholes aren't going to buy $14 eggs, so we're not even going to stock them. It is what it is. But more than tariffs even, I think the thing that people do understand is the crypto and him trying to bring in crypto and alternative monies. Like, crypto is something for rich people, right? Even saying the stock market's doing well for the average voter is kind of like, okay, well, I don't own stocks, but whatever. And all we see in crypto is fraud constantly. Today, there was a story about, that breakdancer Ray Gunn, who was like the fake breakdancer from Australia.
And what happened?
Her brother just got arrested on $100 million in crypto fraud or something.
Wow, that's a lot of fraud, though. That's not like a little. That's
$100,000.
Yeah,
$100,000. That's
$100,000 million. Might as well be a billion. Crypto's not real money.
Right.
But he's arrested on this. It's like every single time I hear about it, it's like a grift. It's a wealth scam. It's sort of like how he had the NFTs, right? And then he rug pulled them. He did the Trump coin with the guys who did the Hawk Tua coin. Like, this is not a serious thing. These are not people I want invested in the money. Then he wants to go to Fort Knox and look at the gold. No, thank you. No, ma'am. I don't think he should go there. He'll either go there and say there's no gold, so we should go to crypto. Like, he'll find some way to grift off it. But I'm very deeply concerned, one, with the over amount of news that there is and things that trigger people's nervous systems and the way they shut down and sort of submit to authoritarianism because you're just sick of it. And two, Everything he does is for the grift. So whether
Yep.
it's tariffs, I have never heard him say, we're going to put a 25% tariff. We expect that we will bring in $4 billion and those billions will be used to give teachers a raise. It's like, we're going to get a 25% tariff. And he means me, the Trump family.
Yeah.
He says,
Right.
I'm going to sell a $5 million gold card for immigration. He means him, Trump, the family will get $5 million. I've never seen him say how much it will be and how that money will be spent on the American people. And I think that's the message.
I agree. He's a scammer. I should just add, this segment's brought to you by my new Dean coin. Get it, you can buy it, the Dean coin. Buy it now online. Go ahead.
I have a question because, like, I understand the tariff, but what benefit does he get from doing that other than sinking the economy? And you know what I mean? Like, all the stuff that you were like, that's the thing that I don't understand. Like, everything else that he does, I understand why he's doing it and how it can benefit him. But the tariff just doesn't make sense to me.
It's 2-degree separation. It's a 2-degree separation.
Go ahead,
tax.
Alex.
Sorry. It's a 2-degree
Okay.
separation tax. It's if he raised taxes or if he kept them the same, then he's not keeping a quote campaign promise. So tariff is a different word than tax. At the end of the day, when you dial it down, Trump is counting on people not understanding this. That's what it really comes down to. He's also counting on the same billionaires who were paying $5 million and $1 million to sit in a room with him, and the same ones that he's doing crypto rug pulls and all these other people. He's counting on them being deep enough into the grift and into the scams that they won't call him out for raising all the prices, because they're all just going to raise the prices. It's a mafia tactic of getting everybody to have a little piece, so then none of them will talk about the big scam that's going on. That's what this is really coming down. And that's with the tariff thing in particular. Again, the guy who is selling t-shirts, who's buying a $15 t-shirt that he's now going to have to sell for $25, he's still thinking that Trump isn't the one actually going to do this to him. It's still disconnected.
It also has to do with shorting the stock market. So if they can make the
Wow.
Dow crash, then people with all this money can buy stocks super cheap. And then as it grows, it's how they've done wealth transfer several times. Instability, uncertainty in the market, and then absolute certainty.
Yeah.
And Liz, it's a tax. I mean, it's a Trump tax. It's 25%. It's a way to generate revenue for our general treasury, the same way you do with a real tax. But, you know, economists call it the biggest tax increase ever, this 25%. And that would be on everything from Canada and Mexico, and now 20% on everything from China, and April 3rd, reciprocal, April 2nd, reciprocal around the world.
But the big thing to remember is that you won't see that at the end of your receipt.
Of course.
At the end of the actual physical receipt you'll see the for Pennsylvania 6% sales tax. And at tax time in April, you're not going to see it there. And so it's a hidden tax that he can push to get this and to generate this revenue, and then go invade Greenland.
Yeah.
We got to pay for Greenland somehow.
And by the way, you know, it's really amazing that Trump is following the Herbert Hoover playbook, because in 1930, when the economy is slowing, what did Hoover do? It's the Smoot-Hawley 25% tariff, and then all the other countries imposed their tariffs, and that led to the Great Depression. I mean, we were already on the way, but it made it worse. But at least Hoover, at some point, realized maybe I should spend more government money. At first, he didn't want to. Trump's doing the opposite. He's cutting spending and laying government workers off. It's as if you were going to say, how can you create a recession in the quickest time? Trump is doing all of it. Like it's you don't need a PhD in economics to go like, this is really effed up. And that's it. We are going to a recession.
And Hoover didn't have BlackRock to buy the Panama Canal for him. So, I mean, BlackRock literally bought the entrance and the exit of the Panama Canal, plus 43 other whatevers and 199 berths. If you buy the entrance and the exit, you own the building. Like, you know, so I don't know.
What's happened to this country? Here's the worst thing. Like usual, I'm watching Hitler documentaries on Netflix. There's a new series about the trial at Nuremberg. And every time I'm like, it's just like Trump. And you know, and I was watching, I'm like, Trump is never leaving office alive. I even said that on MSNBC, and the anchor's like, what? I'm like, he's either going to die the next 4 years or he's never leaving. It's not going to be an election in 2028. We don't have to deal with the 22nd Amendment. He'll just put it off and no one will stop him. And that's
martial law is the next. Yeah, that's one of the biggest.
I don't think he ever leaves. I mean, and who's going to force him out? The only way is Alex talks
Green.
about
Al
Green with a cane, or Father Time with a big cane, and going like, let's go.
I actually, right before I hopped on this interview, my wife and I just recorded a new episode of our podcast, Too Many Tabs, where I talked about, speaking of it happening before, I talked about a man named George Dale who fought against the Ku Klux Klan in Indiana. And a lot of people forget that in 1924, the Ku Klux Klan was transcendent in this country with their America First message. and about how eventually it collapsed in on itself. There was a bunch of different things that happen all at the same time. And so like, I know that many of us like to aim towards and look at the message of Hitler and the Nazis and Europe, but they learned that from the Klan, and they learned that from what happened here in this country. And we've done a really good job in America of forgetting that the Klan was running America in 1920, 100 years ago to the day, and that they collapsed in on themselves from greed, infighting, and just generally being scumbags, while at the same exact time, other members of the United States government and the people itself stood together in solidarity and started building things like union movements and other different movements together. And I think that that's where it gets really scary. We look at Hitler, and the only way he was stopped was the U.S. and the Red Army. But there are times here, we have examples here in the United States of us actually stepping up and getting through this again. And I'm hoping that remembering some of these messages, remembering some of these stories might actually start to inspire people.
I think it's really important, Alex. So let's take a quick break. We're going to come back, a lot more to cover, including the Defense Department banning the term Enola Gay, which was the name of a famous plane, dropped the atomic bomb on the Japanese in World War II. You could debate the dropping the bomb or not, but that's the name of the plane, and you might guess why they're banning it at the Department of Defense. So let's take a break and come back with more of what just happened right after this. And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're continuing what just happened, and all three people stayed for a change. Liz Miele, V Spehar, and Alex Pearlman is here. Alex's first time. So, Alex, let's start with you this time. The Trump administration is in the spirit of getting rid of DEI and trying to do only white achievements. According to reporting in AP, and they did a deep dive, that there are thousands of military achievements they're trying to erase any mention involving women, blacks, and Hispanics, including eliminating images of the famous plane, the Enola Gay, because it has gay in the title. And I'm serious, folks. That's not a joke. That's really as AP is reporting. So a large number of posts dealing with commemorative months, Black and Hispanic people and women who have served our military. And so what's the end game here? All just Confederate. They're fine with the Confederate generals as the names of the bases, but this.
Well, the end game, the end game's obvious. They're giant bigots and racists, but the reason it's happening is because they hit Control F and they entered a bunch of terms. Enola Gay is being removed because the word gay is in the name. But the same exact thing is what Doge has done across the government, right? We talk about things like biodiversity groups being shut down because it has the word diversity. I'm surprised we still have a Department of Transportation. Like there's so many different things that they're going through, and they're hitting Control F and they're just typing in words. So like this is like equity. Like how are we still have an FDIC dealing with home equity loans, right? Equity's right there. That's part of DEI, right? Like all these different things. Hey, an inclusive diet, making sure you have a diverse diet. Let's get rid of that. Why is the food pyramid still here? That feels like Hotep stuff. Get it out of here. There's so many different layers of it. At the end of the day, these guys are lazy bigots and racists who are surrounding themselves with 19-year-olds who believe that AI is going to replace everything. But as we know with AI, it can't tell the difference between a good idea and a bad one. And in this case, they're going through. I want to just congratulate the Trump administration on being so woke that they understand that bombing Japan was actually terrible, and that using a nuclear device in war should be looked at for shame on the American military history. So good job, Donald Trump. And thank you so much, Pete Hegseth, for waking up from a booze-filled afternoon and saying, honestly, we should apologize to the Japanese 4 more times. And then maybe we'll all sit back and go watch some more anime.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, I can see Hegseth getting up, just like grumbling. The gay plane, get rid of it. You know, I had a plane. It was a gay plane. So V, do you think something Alex said though is something I've been seeing people write about, the woke right. That there is a woke right a different way, and that this ending DEI everywhere is almost a woke right, and it's like a mirror, and that it's their own purity test. Like it's a bizarre thing. They always put the left in the purity test. This is their purity test. Like how pure? And you can find, and I love Alex's joke about the Department of Transportation. Yep. That's almost something that's like, it's laughable, but I can see them going, it's really, we got to get rid of that. And it's almost like us, but in the worst, they're motivated by sinister intentions. We're motivated by compassion and empathy.
I think they give them a lot of busy work over there too. I think a lot of what Pete Hegseth does is busy work. They were like, hey, they changed the bases from Fort Benning to Fort Liberty. They changed Fort Bragg to Fort Liberty, and Fort Benning to Fort Moore. The problem was people really care about the Moore family, who the base was named for in Georgia. And so he's getting massive backlash, which doesn't help with the already kind of problems people have with somebody who didn't achieve rank becoming the Secretary of Defense. And I am very, in the military community, and there are jokes flying about this is why we don't put somebody from the weekend crew on the full-time job, right?
Right.
But a lot of the stuff they're doing over there, I think just is like a form of domestic terrorism, honestly. It's there to like break your spirit, break your confidence, give you something to bitch about so that you don't realize that he's doing big things like saying we're no longer to cyber monitor Russia. A lot of my friends are putting in their packet to get out of the military, people who've been in 16, 20, almost 20 years, because they're afraid that they're going to be boots on the ground for Russia. They don't want to give unlawful orders. They made an oath to the Constitution, and we seem to be getting further away from what that oath means. There seems to be that the Secretary of Defense would like to serve a king, and that's just not something, that they're going to do over there. So I think when it comes to the military, there's a lot of spooky stuff they're doing. They're using military planes to deport people for PR and photo shoots, even though it is 70 times more expensive than deporting people the way that Biden was on commercial airlines. At some point, I'm like, when does the like cyclone roller coaster stop? There has to be some end at some point when people are like, I literally cannot do this anymore. I can't do the back and forth. I can't do the Doge. I can't do the military stuff. But I don't know when that happens, because on our side, we're holding up little signs that say false on them. And
false. No, but Liz, I think what V is saying, it rings a bell in that there were times when our fellow people on our side, I thought we're going like, that's a little far. That's going to come back to haunt us. Now, what they're doing on the right, I can just see it could be 3 months, 6 months from now, a year from now, which can just be embarrassing. Sort of, like paddleball
You have
or
to
something
have
like that. People are going to look at that.
shame.
Pickleball. It's like pickleball. You're like, what? You played pickleball? What? Why didn't you play tennis? It's like 20 feet more. What's wrong with you? But I don't know even if them, but I just think that the average, forget them. I mean, like the average person who might right now might be like, I like some of this. And a little while from now, they're going, this is ridiculous. What is wrong with you people? I hope we get there. Maybe I'm being too Pollyannish, too hopeful.
But I think it goes back to what Alex was saying, that it's not going to hit people until it's simple and like not maybe logical, because all we've been doing is logic, but it has to be in their terms. Like, I'll be honest, I'm a dum-dum. I did not do well in anything in school, but at the same time, like, it is, like the way I learned as somebody that's dyslexic is I need visual on top of auditory on top of doing it myself. So someone's going to go buy a car, right, that they thought was $60,000, finding out that it's $80,000, somebody showing them why it's now $20,000 more. Like, you're going to have to force feed people this information. And you already start to hear some Trump voters are having regrets. I guess where I feel like they don't have any shame is these representatives, where all they do is flip flop and think of themselves and not their constituents. That I just don't see a world where they ever, for posterity reasons, apologize or admit that they were swindled or they thought they were doing the right thing or whatever made up shit they're going to say. But I can see voters having remorse. I just don't see anybody in office having it.
I'm hoping voters do, but I'm chatting with Liz Miele, V Spehar, and Alex Pearlman. But Alex, the new darling, the new victim on the right is Derek Chauvin, the police officer who murdered George Floyd, that we all got to see it, and Ben Shapiro. And Elon Musk amplified it, but Ben Shapiro was really making a call saying that Derek Chauvin was railroaded by the justice system. He was unjustly convicted. And Elon Musk said something to think about, because Elon Musk is an apartheid lover. And he's like, of course. And I don't know if anyone knows Ben, but you can tell Ben, it doesn't matter what he does, the white supremacists are never going to like him, just like they're not going to like me because I'm Muslim. They're not going to like him because he's Jewish. It doesn't matter. I could be the biggest fanboy for white supremacists. At the end of the day, you go, he's Muslim and Arab, so we're still not going to like him. So, Alex, is this Ben Shapiro just so needy or is it a business decision, or what the F is going on? Because to defend Derek Chauvin, who was convicted, and he can't get pardoned. He wants Trump to pardon him. Yeah, he can be pardoned for the federal crimes, but he's in for life, essentially, for the state crimes. So that doesn't, from a legal point of view, so this is all just PR. This is posturing. So there's some benefit Ben Shapiro thinks he's going to get by doing this. Can you make any sense of it, Alex?
Sure. Ben's trying to re-win audience, number one. On the baseline, the very baseline. Remember when Luigi Mangione was arrested? Ben went on a rant and everyone went to his comment section and watched classic Ben Shapiro fans say, Ben, you're bullshitting us. We know that you are being paid or at least working with people who have interests with the American health system that are standing in the way of this. Ben's had massive blowback. Ben's numbers are down. If I really sat down and looked at all of his analytics the same way we look at other content creators, at the end of the day, if you view Ben Shapiro the same way you view any other dancing e-girl streamer on Twitch, you will end up getting the same answers for all these people. Ben Shapiro is a guy who plays at being a television presenter while he works on a streaming network that's paid for by billionaires. At the same exact, so his whole push on this is racist, please like me because I am going to try to rile up black people again. Elon Musk is jumping on board because Elon Musk believes that he can trigger people into having race riots. So then he can convince Trump into starting martial law. And the thing is listen, I've been looking around. I've been talking to people. It's not going to fucking work. You can try all you want. The biggest thing is that the Trump administration, Elon and these others, a lot of them, when they look back on 2020, especially when they look back on all of the actions around BLM and all of the protesting, all the marching, many of them do not view that as a march against police brutality or systemic inequality or systemic racism. They view it directly as a march against Donald Trump and the Trump administration solely. And in fact, I know voters here in Pennsylvania who were actually mad, who sat out of this election, who did not vote for Kamala Harris, who did not vote for Donald Trump, because they said, well, where was the protesting? Where was the passion that we had back in 2020? We were supposed to fix all that, and I didn't see it get fixed from that moment because they view BLM and they viewed those protesting. They viewed everything that they saw as a Democratic operation, even though it wasn't. Even though it was individual, there were Democrats who came in like Nancy Pelosi and others who tried to co-opt it, and that they did use that momentum. Joe Biden used that momentum, but it wasn't their movement. And there's a disconnect. So some people, again, when you get all the way down to the baseline voter, that they have that disconnect. Elon's looking around and going like, how can I get them mad enough so then they won't talk about me firing everyone? How can I get people mad enough so they won't notice that we just lost 179,000 jobs negatively last night for the first time since July 2020, since the last time Trump was president?
Yep.
So how do we distract? That's what this really comes down to. Ben wants to get listeners back because he's losing them to bigger and bigger racists who are getting more and more deals from a lot of different sponsorships now. And Elon is trying to get a distraction so that way the racists will stay on Twitter.
Yeah, I wonder if him driving Candace Owens out, and he had every right to drive her out. You know, some of the stuff she said was just vile and despicable, but that lost him some people. So now and then whatever he did with UNH, because I didn't even follow that then. I don't follow Ben stuff, but it does make sense. This is a sort of a commercial decision by him at the bottom line. Cause I'm like, why would you there is nothing redeeming about Derek Chauvin. We all watched the video of him put his knee on the neck of George Floyd and kill him in front of people screaming, stop. So it's indefensible. V, I mean, you're in the space too of the influencers. What do you think is this purely a business play by Ben, or is there something else going on?
It's again, these people are short-term thinkers. They think about what can I do right now that could do something important or get attention. And the fact is, if they do, in fact, let's say Derek Chauvin gets a federal pardon, that will remove him from federal prison and put him in state prison. He will be in a worse prison if that's what happens. He will have less protection if that's what happens. Being in federal prison, when they added the hate crime charge, if we go back and remember, that made him a federal prisoner, which put him in like a safer, better prison. So even if they're doing this and Derek Chauvin's like, yeah, pardon me, he will end up in a worse situation because you guys don't think shit all the way through. Same thing with Donald Trump bringing over the Tate brothers. Well, the Tate brothers were popular in 2019 before all this stuff really came to light with Romania. And the little boys who listened to them's mothers had 3 years of those Tate brothers being locked up to sort of deprogram their kids just a little bit off the Tate stuff and onto maybe somebody who's slightly less rapey. But the Tate brothers don't hold the weight that they used to, like they did back then. They're a pariah to even to a lot of the right. So then Donald Trump brings them here, brings them to Florida, and Meatball Ron DeSantis is like, not in my fucking backyard.
Right,
I'm
he's an open
also running
investigation.
for
Yeah.
office. I got shit to do. So now the state is looking at arresting the Tate brothers, and now they're fleeing Florida, right? These people don't think, they don't coordinate together. When cruelty is your point, you will eventually face some of the acid that you are throwing on others. It will splash back on you. Things will come back around to you. And in these cases, I think it's so on the nose obvious that I'm like, okay, is he going to pardon Diddy next? Like, what's going to,
That's no, but Ben won't do that because he's black, right? It's got to be a white
He loves
criminal.
the rappers, though.
Who are you going to say
True.
this?
Yeah.
That's true. And he knows Diddy.
He knows
Who?
Diddy
Ben?
will pardon
No, Trump.
Trump does, of
Yeah.
course. Yes, it's in
Yeah.
New York. So shift gears here because we'll try to squeeze one or two last topics before we run out of time here. So Hamilton canceled a run at the Kennedy Center now that Trump's taken over it. And I think it's interesting. So Liz, I mean, would you play Kennedy Center now with Trump controlling it? I mean, I know Kamau Bell did, and he wanted to go still do it so he could mock Trump at the place where so I can see both sides to canceling it or bringing it there. And we had done with the Arab American Comedy Festival that I co-produced our 20th anniversary just in Biden's last year, we did a big show at the Kennedy Center. And I was wondering, I'm like, what if we were going to do it now? We would do it now because we'd be like, F you, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're Arabs, we're in your place. But I also understand why the Kennedy Center is not going to bring money to them because we were doing a one-night show. This is a real money maker for the Kennedy Center. So what do you think? Hamilton canceling, good idea?
I see both sides of it. I mean, it makes complete sense for Hamilton and what's the guy's name? I can't think of it right now.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, why he wouldn't for the content of the play as well as him as a performer and a human and what have you. So I understand him being like, I want no part of this. But even Kamau, like, I mean, I see him being like, I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna, while I still can, talk shit about you in your own house. I don't, in those kind of situations, especially with art, I really don't judge anybody as long as they've thought about it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you have to have a stance and know why you're doing it. And then you're going to get some kind of publicity and have clearly pushback from whatever side, and being able to talk about it in a way where you know what you're saying and you feel close to it. But I actually don't have any like, that's stupid, you shouldn't do that and fuck these people. Like, I think it's very difficult to be an artist. These things you can't just get booked the next night somewhere else. It could be a true financial loss for you in a way that you can no longer, take care of yourself or have a platform. So it's like, I have both empathy and understanding. And as long as you know what you're doing, I don't have any judgment.
I don't. I think you should perform. I think that in particular, Hamilton should perform. I think that Trump's taking over the Kennedy Center is an attempt to co-opt art, and art is protest, and art is also one of the few things that we can do that invokes empathy in people. And a show like Hamilton that really centers characters, the actors who get to play these historic characters are from marginalized backgrounds, I think is an important lesson. I also think you got to consider it's not just like the big production or it gives money to the Kennedy Center. There are so few opportunities for artists and singers and dancers to perform and be paid. And I think that takes it away from them. I think it takes it away from the potential of like having a unique audience experience with people who don't maybe share exact ideas, but the less we put out, the more they fill with the vacuum with terrible shit. So in some ways, I'm like, I understand Trump made himself the head of it, but when it comes to an institution like the Kennedy Center, performing is a form of protest, is a form of ensuring that there are empathetic social public experiences that people have that can help them change their minds in the face of fascism. And I think, we learned that from the musical Cabaret, right? Maybe they should do Cabaret instead of Hamilton.
Well, certainly better than the Kid Rock musical spectacular that's going to be playing there for the next few weeks.
But the only thing I push up against that a bit, V, is just that the audience might not want to come and support it. Therefore, you are having these performers do this. Everybody's, let's say, stuck there because they're doing a run, and people are like, I don't want my money to go there. I'll see you when you go to Chicago or you go somewhere else. So it's also, if you don't know, you have to know your audience as well. Is my audience going to be okay knowing that their dollars are still, even though it technically is supporting us as well, it's supporting this other thing, and we're starting to see more boycotts as well. So it is
National Theater is about to have a hell of a year then.
It's so Alex, and the last couple minutes here, then I want everyone to get a chance to plug whatever you want. So Alex, where do you look at, we see certain media figures and even Governor Newsom now trying to have right-wing people on their podcast. Is there a benefit for some things in good faith to try to talk to some people on the right, and not to convince them, but to try to reach someone in their base, or is it a waste of time?
I think it all depends. I think Newsom, I've never seen Newsom fail at something as badly as he did with that particular podcast.
Charlie Kirk.
There's a moment during that where Governor Newsom, the sitting governor of California, looks Charlie Kirk in the face and says, "My son's a huge fan of yours." You couldn't put a gun to my head as a parent to have me admit that my child is a fan of that scumbag. Like and then Newsom's the one platforming this. And then Charlie Kirk, I'm looking at this on TikTok. Newsom's posting it on TikTok. Charlie Kirk's posting on TikTok. Guess whose clips have 100,000 likes? It's not Newsom's. It's Charlie Kirk's, because the message now is that Charlie Kirk got one over on Newsom, and he's legitimized Charlie Kirk to a degree. Charlie Kirk was already legitimate. Didn't need the help.
Right.
Newsom needed in that time. Newsom needed to have just a normal person on there. He could have just picked somebody. He could have picked another politician. He could have picked an old
firefighter,
labor leader,
somebody,
anybody.
Yeah, he could have figured out how to be. Because here's the thing: is unlike Trump, Newsom, which is crazy. Newsom, even with Hollywood right there, he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand how to frame this, how to sell it. Whenever I look at Governor Newsom, I always picture a demon from the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You know, when you're watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the demon always shows up with slick back hair,
looking
and
good,
teeth are a little too white, and he's a little bit too hot. There's an uncanny valley to it. That's Newsom for me. And like, I know a lot of people who like Newsom. He's not my cup of tea right now. The governors that I've been seeing, obviously, I love Josh Shapiro because he's my governor and I know him from doing events with him. But JB Pritzker has been very much killing it right now.
Yep.
I think Whitmer's still there a little bit. I think she leans a little bit too much like many of the Dems are doing right now, of trying to do dumb little memes.
Cutesy.
Yeah, doing my Roman Empire is fighting against fascism. No, it's not. Yeah. Stuff like that, like these type of things don't work. But I think that there is definitely there's a fireside chat area that they need to find that FDR made. How do you reach voters where they are? How do you have those conversations where they're going on? And I don't believe that they're happening these days on cable news. I don't believe that they're happening on these different things. When we look at Hakeem Jeffries trying to do this, he opens up every one of his videos with a millennial pause as he's waiting for the person. Every single one of his videos, you watch him, it's a pause. Then he nods that he is agreeing that the video is on. You edit that out. Oh my God.
A millennial pause, you call it? I did. Very funny.
Oh, you don't know? You don't know?
It's a term.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that term.
So here's the reason why that happens. It's actually it's an old technological reason, and it still happens actually on Meta products like Facebook and Instagram. It doesn't happen on TikTok. On TikTok, the second you touch the button, the camera is rolling. On Facebook and Instagram, the second you touch that button, it's like almost a half a second before the little dial starts to move. So you're waiting to see when the video starts. So if you go watch anyone who's like 35 or older, typically there's a half second we go,
that's funny. The millennial.
If you watch my videos, if you watch V's videos, if you watch anyone who does
edit that out.
We edit it out.
It's a good
lesson.
And
then there's the Gen Z shake, which Gavin Newsom will never get. He'll never get the Gen Z shake. That's where you pretend you're setting up the camera. And so it has a little shake before you set it down and go into your whole thing. It's a visual.
I love that. All right, we're running out of time now. I want everyone to plug their stuff, but the Gen Z shake I'm going to do. All right. V, where can people follow your work?
You can follow me everywhere: Substack, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, at Under the Desk News. I also have a podcast that runs twice weekly on Tuesdays and Thursdays with the Betches Network called American Fever Dream.
Busy. Liz, what about you, my friend? I know you're always on the road and touring.
Yeah, I'm touring. I start again in April, so I'll be in New Orleans, Philly, Sunnyvale, San Diego, LA, and then my special Murder Sheets is on YouTube, but I have 5 specials on there. You can check them all out.
And
Liz
what's your
Miele.
website?
Everything's Liz Miele, Miele.
And Alex, what about you?
What do you in Philly, Liz?
Oh, Punchline.
Punchline? Oh, I'll come. I love it.
All right, there you go.
Great club.
One ticket sold. Go
you
ahead,
can
Alex.
find me, Alex Pearlman, under Pearlmania 500. Google Pearlmania 500. Everything will come up. But you can also listen to my podcast, Too Many Tabs. I do with my wife, which is an amazing show that we discuss all sorts of different things that we research and then tell each other about. We just did an episode about John Brown, and our episode this Sunday will be about George Dale and how we fought back against the Klan back in the 20s. We're trying to make sure that you have a little fun time and then still feel like the world isn't crashing down around you at the same time. Try to build up your soul a little bit. Too Many Tabs, wherever you listen to podcasts, and also on YouTube.
That's great. Well, Liz, V, and Alex, thanks so much. Alex, great meeting you. I hope you'll come back on. You guys are all great.